Thanks everybody for joining us this morning. I'm Melissa Hayes from the NJTPA, North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. Thanks for joining us for our second of 3 Let's Talk Transportation events. We're hosting these virtual listening sessions as part of our public outreach for our next long-range transportation plan called Connecting Communities. Today's topic is potential ways we can improve access to public transit. To get us started, I'm going to turn the program over to our Executive Director, David Barrett. Dave?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks to everyone joining us today. Hope you had a good weekend and are ready to kick off a great week. Thanks for joining us on Monday morning. And this discussion today is really a very important part of our outreach for our next long-range transportation plan, which is going to set the vision for the future of transportation in our region here in northern and central New Jersey over the next 25 years. And we're calling this plan Connecting Communities because we wanted to really acknowledge the key role that transportation plays in connecting everyone to the places they need to go and to the people in their lives, and whether that means getting people to work, to school, or accessing healthcare, shopping, or any of the vast opportunities for arts, recreation, and entertainment our region has to offer. Transportation really is the key for everyone to be able to access these things. And we want to hear from you, the people who live and work in our region, on this topic that we're going to discuss today and other topics related to transportation, because we want to ensure that our plan does reflect the needs of the people in our region. And Connecting Communities is going to cover a wide range of transportation-related topics, including the one we're here to discuss today, the important role that public transit plays in travel within our region and beyond. And of course, to take advantage of our region's transit, and that's whether we're talking buses or commuter rail, light rail, the PATH, or relatively new services like VIA in Jersey City, you have to be able to access that service. You have to be able to get to the stops or the stations that you need to take advantage of public transit. And then that, in turn, leads to a discussion about everything from last mile shuttles to encouraging land use that's going to allow more people to live within a short walking distance of transit facilities, where really by just taking a few steps out their front door, they have access really ultimately to the nation and the world. So today we're here to discuss that and more. And I am very much looking forward to hearing our presenters and also to hearing your ideas during the discussion that follows. And the feedback we gather today and at other events like this is really important and will be incorporated into the plan. We're also doing an online survey. I encourage you to share that survey far and wide with your networks so we can get input from as many people as possible. That, I believe, is going to be available and live and taking responses through the end of this month. So after these discussions and outreach events, we're going to be distributing a draft plan this summer, gathering additional feedback at that point, and ultimately it'll go to our board for adoption in September. And that's key because without a board-approved long-range transportation plan in place, our region would not be eligible for federal surface transportation funding. So this plan is important in so many ways. And we really do appreciate you taking the time to join us today. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. And with that, thanks again, and I'll turn things back to Melissa.
Thanks, Dave. So thanks, Christina. I'm going to give a very brief overview of the NJTPA, our long-range plan, and then we'll hear from 3 experts. Following their presentations, we'll split into breakout groups for discussion so that we can hear from all of you, which is why we're really here today. So for those of you who are not familiar with the NJTPA, we're the federally authorized metropolitan planning organization for the 13 counties in northern and central New Jersey. You can see them here. As Dave mentioned, the board will consider adopting the plan later this year. Our board is comprised of representatives from each of those counties and the 2 largest cities in our region, Newark and Jersey City. We also have representatives from the governor's office, New Jersey Department of Transportation, NJ Transit, the Port Authority, and there's a citizens representative. Next slide, thanks. So what is this long-range plan that we've all been talking about? As Dave mentioned, we're required to do this. It makes us eligible for federal funding. We have to update it every 4 years. Think of the plan as a roadmap or a vision for the region's transportation future. It includes forecasts for our ever-changing population and how we expect the transportation system to respond to that, like how travel patterns might change. When we did this 4 years ago, we were in the pandemic and everyone shifted to working from home. So these are the kinds of things that we're considering. The plan will identify needs, and it will also help prioritize improvements, which is why it's so important that we hear from all of you and get your ideas and input. Next slide, thanks. And I just wanted to put in one last plug for the survey that Dave mentioned. We also have a multimedia contest and survey for kids and teens because we want to hear from them too. They're going to be using the transportation system well beyond the rest of us. You can find all of these links in the chat. Thanks for posting those, Courtney, or just by visiting our website, njtpa.org/connecting. Please share these with your family, friends, colleagues, social media networks. All the input we receive will help us develop a plan for our region. So moving on to our speakers, we're really fortunate today. I have 3 great presenters who are going to get us thinking and talking about transportation investments that support better access to transit. Megan Massey is the Director of Transit-Friendly Planning at NJ Transit. Tamanna Tiku is an associate with Perkins Eastman, who's going to talk about a project she's been working on here in our region. And Kyle Skala is the manager of the Division Office for Local Aid and Economic Development at the New Jersey Department of Transportation. As I mentioned, we'll be splitting into breakout groups following these presentations. Megan will get us started. Thanks.
Thanks, Melissa, and thank you to NJTPA for inviting New Jersey Transit to speak on this topic. So today I will be talking about the Transit-Friendly Planning Guide, the TOD policy, Denellen Tech Assistance, and Metuchen Connector. But TOD policy will be at the end. Sorry. So what is transit-friendly planning? Next. These are a few of the elements, just a few of the building blocks of what we are needed in a transit-friendly place. It's more than just promoting TOD. It prioritizes transit access and redevelopment that aligns with community needs. It's a planning concept that creates an environment around transit facilities such as bus stops, bus terminals, rail or light rail stations, and supports and encourages transit use. This environment is achieved by proactively planning for development and circulation. Sorry, you can go next. So what is the Transit-Friendly Planning Guide? It was developed in 2022. There are 5 chapters to it, as you see on the screen. It's meant to promote great places in your communities around transit. It's also meant to be easy to read. So a community group, local official, student interested in transportation planning in New Jersey will be able to understand the concepts and the reasons behind them. Making a community transit-friendly involves making development and redevelopment decisions that encourages residents to use transit for everyday trips to access work, shopping, school, and other destinations. So as you all know, New Jersey is a very diverse state, and while no two communities are the same, the guide describes 5 place types. You'll see we go from the urban center, which is a diverse mix of commercial, civic, residential uses, all the way to rural place, which is characterized by its small town, main street feel. It's important to keep in mind that a place type may change over time and that guidance from multiple place types may be applicable. So for today's presentation, I'll be focusing on chapter 4, which is planning for active transportation, such as bicycling and walking, and discussing the importance of implementing complete streets to improve transit access. So principle number 1 found in the guide is complete streets improve access to transit. So the term complete streets is a balanced approach that meets the safety and mobility needs of all users, including pedestrians, cyclists, transit riders, cars, other vehicles. And this could be achieved through changes to public policy, funding allocation, and the way we choose to design, operate, and maintain our streets. So in this chapter, we point the way to begin answering questions like, where do I start if my community needs to develop a complete streets policy? How can we develop a complete streets network that supports transit access? And what are the basic components of complete streets design? In the next principle, within the same chapter 4 is principle number 2, which is trails to transit. This deals with the idea of connecting transit with trails. In this context, we're thinking trails as off-road paved pathways for use by both pedestrians and cyclists. When we combine trails with transit, there's an opportunity to expand the benefits of mobility, health, equity, and economic growth. On one hand, we could think of trails as an ideal way for, day-to-day connections to school, work, downtown, but they can also create opportunities for tourism, recreation, and a regional sense of mobility that attracts people for leisure, family time, cultural events, etc. As the future brings change to the infrastructure and technology around us, trails will remain an attractive solution. New Jersey Transit to Trails program created this interactive map that you can find on our NJ Transit website. So just diving in quickly I'm just going to be going over 2 of our active transportation plans. And just know that our tech assistance program is available to anyone throughout our network. So feel free to reach out if you're interested in anything like this. So we worked with the town of Dunellen on their active transportation planning study. A quick overview. It's along the Raritan Valley line. They have 4 transit bus lines, the train station, and their designated transit village. They also meet the definition of a town center within the transit-friendly planning guide. So there are connections to transit, bicycle parking available at transit, a welcoming, safe public realm, just identifying what is a town center. So for the study, we looked at the crashes in Dunellen, and the high crash intersections and corridors were identified, and the consultants found that bicycle and pedestrian crashes are less frequent, but tend to be more severe, and they mainly occur closer to the center of the borough. So here's an overview of our outreach process. We conducted outreach at the train station, attended 2 borough events. We hosted an open house and developed a survey with the mayor's office. And then we met separately with the mayor's traffic and pedestrian safety task force to gather their input on issues and opportunities regarding active transportation. So through the outreach process, we were able to identify barriers to active transportation. Top obstacles for bicyclists and pedestrians included fear of being hit by a car, and a lack of safe bikeways was an issue for cyclists. On the right, there is a word map highlighting the barriers like speeding cars, incomplete sidewalks, and faded crosswalks. And then also the outreach process allowed for us to understand the residents' vision. So in the next slide, you'll see they had key destinations like train station, parks, schools. The residents really expressed a desire for improved sidewalk conditions, safe crosswalks, lighting, traffic calming, and safe ways for bicyclists to cross busy streets. The design guidance presented in the report includes recommendations related to traffic calming like curb extensions and dynamic speed feedback signs. It also introduced rectangular rapid flashing beacons and crosswalk visibility enhancements. The key project outcomes included a detailed active transportation network for signing, striping, and for long-term solutions, which would require engineering and construction. And then we identified a preliminary planning concept. Here's a snippet on Walnut Street and Prospect Ave. These roads connect the borough to the elementary school and train station. So it shows the intersection, and the near-term low-cost improvements include crosswalk visibility enhancements, sidewalk completion, shared lane markings, and a reduction to 25 mile per hour pavement markings. And just so you know, since they're a transit village, Dunellen was able to move those concept plans into their next round of funding. So it's great to see, that planning is moving into actual construction of some of these recommendations. So the next tech assistance was the Metuchen Connector Trail to Middlesex Greenway. This created sorry, I lost my spot. This study created concept level designs of bicycle and pedestrian facility improvements, determined safe and accessible connections between Metuchen Station and the Middlesex Greenway, and improved bicycle parking facilities at the Metuchen train station. So for those of you who don't know, Metuchen is along the Northeast Corridor. 21% of Metuchen workers commute by public transit, and the daily ridership back in 2022 was over 1,200. So there was a survey through this study, and 93% of the respondents use or visit the Metuchen train station. 66% of responses were in the 1 mile of the train station. Primary access mode was walking, 49%, and 34% of respondents reported riding a bicycle. So there were 2 options for connectors between the train station and Middlesex Greenway. 33% of respondents would use the Amboy Avenue to access restaurants, stores, and businesses, while 30% would use it to access transit. And then for the Green Street, 26% of respondents would use it to access restaurants, stores, and businesses, while 26% would use it to access transit. Quickly, the preferred bicycle and scooter infrastructure, 40% of survey respondents loved protected bike lane, followed by the multi-use trail and conventional bike lane, and the shared lane markings came at 69%. You can skip to the next slide because I know I'm taking too long. But for the next steps, NV5 drafted full concepts and shared with the external stakeholder group, and the concept plans were given to the borough and county to implement. As always, New Jersey Transit's interested in continuing coordination if needed. And then just quickly, just so you all are aware, New Jersey Transit has a TOD policy. It's on our website. We're all very aware of the benefits of TOD. Just skipping to the policy language for goal number 3, which is in the next slide. It focuses on transportation choice and expanding access to and viability of transit and alternative modes of transportation. So leverage land use and urban design to encourage active modes of transportation and create safe, complete, direct, varied, redundant, ADA compliant, and well-appointed routes for active modes of transportation. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and you can scan the QR code to link directly to the Transit Friendly Planning website. So I'll just keep talking, Tamanna. Do you want me to just do those first 2 slides? And
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, all right. So this is the Route 9 TOD plan. We worked with Perkins Eastman on this FTA TOD pilot funded project. The Route 9 corridor is a very busy, active bus corridor. There are 80 bus stops with over 6,500 weekday boardings. We looked at the 21-mile corridor between Old Bridge in Middlesex County all the way to Howell in Monmouth County. And then the project team assessed 17 selection station areas and then reduced it to focus on Old Bridge Park and Ride, Old Bridge Central, and Franklin Lane in Manalapan. And so the goals were to study TOD potential on both a corridor-wide and station area level. We really prioritized community collaboration, equity and inclusion, and safe access to transit. We had, and Tamanna will go into this, but we had many touch points of outreach. We actually have our final public meeting on March 5th, if anyone is interested in attending. It's from 6:30 to 8, and it's a virtual meeting. But we had a state and regional advisory committee along with other stakeholder outreach, open house touch points. So I'll hand it over to Tamanna to go into the details.
Thanks, Megan, and thank you all for having me here today. So in our work and proposing transit-oriented development along the corridor, our approach basically was that all roads must lead to transit. We looked at every station area for its unique opportunities because all 17 of them were really distinct. And we wanted to encourage compact, walkable mixed-use development overall, and generally improve walkability not only for new development, but for existing residents and users. Next. You'll note that in all of our schemes, we put transit in the middle of the community. We wanted to create better sense of arrival wherever we could. We wanted to have propose amenities on your way to transit, and then we wanted to leverage transit for new residential development. Next slide. The smart growth principles that we applied to each and every site was to concentrate as much the most density around transit and the bus stops. We wanted to cluster development to allow for more contiguous green space and respect existing wetlands and environmental constraints. We wanted to encourage pedestrian and bicycle access as much as possible. And then we integrated stormwater management measures in each site. Next. So as Megan hinted before, of the 17, were able to select a few stations, bus stops that are highlighted here based on a variety of criteria, which included the development opportunity and existing development market activity, access to Route 9, existing access to Route 9, and then also the existing regulatory and state and regional context of each of the sites. So these four stations, bus stops, and station areas came out leading the pack. Next. So as it exists, Route 9, as you know, and as Megan mentioned, is a really robust transit corridor, but it is very difficult to cross. There's a lack of crosswalks, there's a lot of fast moving traffic, and there's very little sidewalk connectivity. As you'll see on the image on the right, there are minimal facilities for commuters. In a lot of locations, they don't even have shelters, bus stops. They just have a sign and with crosswalks that go nowhere. And so it's very difficult for transit users, even though there's a lot of transit users, to access transit. Next. Um, so what you see in this slide is us mapping out the existing access to transit conditions. The outermost circle in each of these, at each of these 17 stations, you'll see, is the 10-minute walking circle, which we are defining as the station area, 10-minute walking radius. So ideally, in an ideal world, the entirety of the 10-minute radius should be, full, should be covered. But as you can see, because of lack of sidewalk connectivity and then development patterns that encourage more cul-de-sacs than, street extensions and continuous street and block network, it's very limited in some stations like Howell Garage or Shibanoff Lane. You can see there's barely any sidewalk connectivity. And so a pedestrian access to transit was our greatest challenge that we were trying to solve for. Next slide. So what we are saying is that through our proposals for transit-oriented development along Route 9 corridor, there are multiple benefits for an entire range of stakeholders. So for the communities and residents, you have better access to bus, better access to jobs, range of housing, and improved connections to bus. For states and counties, there's reduced traffic congestion, there's an expanded affordable housing opportunity, and then improved air quality. For townships, of course, they have increased tax revenues, they get to meet their affordable housing goals and healthier living outcomes. And then even for New Jersey Transit, there's increased ridership and other factors like the opportunity to advance their 2030 10-year strategic plan. Next slide. So today we'll share two of the station areas that we referred to, the Old Bridge Park and Ride, which is at the very top of the corridor, and then Franklin Lane, which is kind of in the middle of the Route 9 corridor. Next slide. At Old Bridge Park and Ride, we have a lot of available development opportunity. So on one side, the east side of Route 9, there's 41 acres of development opportunity where parcels are owned either by a variety of private owners or New Jersey Transit or the township. And on the west side of Route 9, there's a contiguous 108 acres of development opportunity, which is generally owned by one large landowner. Next. But there are a lot of challenges apart from the others I mentioned that happen throughout Route 9, which is lack of crosswalk, sidewalk connectivity, etc. There is a existing shopping plaza, and like many other shopping plazas along Route 9, which has been seeing a lot of vacancy rates lately. So not only is the shopping plaza itself not in full use, it also blocks access for existing residents to the further east from what is labeled as London Terrace and Parkwood Village apartments to access Route 9. It acts as a visual as well as physical barrier through which people are not able to access transit. Next slide. And on the west side, there's a lot of existing environmental constraints and utility easements that already exist. But in our proposal, we suggested that we use these existing wetlands to organize the site because it's such a large contiguous site. We needed clues, and we always respect the context. And we organized the site based on the creek, the wetlands, and the utility easement existing on site. Next. So what emerged was a few development and circulation principles. First of all, the bus stop on the west side currently existed in a very hidden and forgotten location behind the Walmart. If somebody could, if Christina, you could point to the Walmart on the west side of Route 9. That's right. The existing bus stop existed behind the Walmart, very hidden, very inconvenient and inaccessible. So our first suggestion was to move the bus stops to Route 9, which is the blue highlighted locations. We suggested connecting the east and west side of the bus stops with a pedestrian bridge over Route 9 to create a more contiguous walking experience. And say you park your car on the east side on your northbound trip up to Manhattan. In the evening, when you want to when you come back from on the southbound side of Route 9, you can get back to your car in a safe manner through a pedestrian bridge, which is a condition that currently exists, but people have a very difficult time crossing Route 9. Apart from this, we suggested some key moves like extending Westminster Boulevard from the east side of Route 9 all the way to west. And then we proposed a street network that reimagines the existing shopping plaza with a few connections going through. Exactly. You can see the ghost of the shopping plaza in the background. Next slide, please. A variety of street typologies would be required to accomplish this. We never suggest a one-size-fits-all. The Westminster Boulevard extension along the existing creek would be a more natural environment with a creek going through the middle, but other streets would include a main street type of environment, a typical neighborhood street, and then of course we would need alleys and parking lanes and service lanes. Next slide. So here I'm showing the before and the after. The existing condition within the 10-minute walking circle, you can see had a very limited pedestrian connectivity and access to transit. But through these improvements, through this new suggested street and block network, you suddenly see that the 10-minute walking circle is genuinely a 10-minute accessibility for pedestrians to transit. Next slide. I'm just sharing here a few examples of streets. What we try to do is limit the vehicular right of way within our streets as much as possible and give area back to landscape and pedestrians as much as possible. So this is Maletta Commons. If you go to the next slide, you can see the before and the after of how we're imagining this as a potential main street environment with retailer active uses on one side, diagonal parking, but really limiting that vehicular access to just 2 lanes of vehicular traffic and giving the rest of the area back to landscape and pedestrians. Next slide, please. This is the Westminster Boulevard that would be extended all the way from the east side of Route 9 to the west. And this is where the existing dry creek would be accommodated as a beautiful median, landscaped median for the whole development. Next slide, please. And this hopefully will show you the before and the after of our proposal at this really large and vast site at Old Bridge Park and Ride. Next slide, please. So with all this development on both sides of Route 9, we were able to basically derive around 2,000 multifamily residential units and 2.5 million square feet of potential development, which is a huge deal in this part of New Jersey. Next slide, please. The next station area was a very different physical condition. As you can see, the 33.4 acre, critical mass of available development area was offset from Route 9. It is not exactly on Route 9, but along Franklin Lane. And it's a little bit further away from Route 9. So the challenge was figuring out access to transit from this site to Franklin Lane's Route 9 bus stops. And while keeping the existing commuter parking that the township owns at this site. Next slide. As you can see, the walking experience currently from the various parts of the station area to the bus stop is not great. There are some crosswalks, but not enough. There's not very limited sidewalk connectivity on one side of the street versus the other. And so the fast-moving traffic is a huge inhibitor for people to get from the commuter parking lot to the bus stops. Next slide. So we'll try to show the before and after condition at this location to reveal the potential of this particular site. We can keep the commuter parking lot where it is and concentrate development further in and away from Route 9. Next slide, please. And this is hopefully going to show you how within the existing 46-foot right-of-way of Franklin Lane, we're able to accommodate more sidewalk and planting, basically give area back to pedestrians and landscape again. Next slide, please. So this is the intermediate lot on Franklin Lane that separates the bus stop from the development parcel. We noticed in our study of these lots that the existing layout of the retail parking lots was very wide, was too wide, and by tweaking just painted lines on within these parking lots, we were able to derive a 14-foot walkway that could be landscaped and reimagined as a safe pedestrian walkway from the commuter parking lot, connecting it to the bus stop. So it would require a little bit of a deal with the Bagel World Plaza on the north and the liquor store to the south, but it's something that would be very feasible and a very a tactical adjustment to this parking lot, but would allow great benefits to pedestrians. Next slide, please. And this I'm showing is a shared multi-use path that we were proposing from that would connect the 14-foot walkway that I was suggesting in the slide right before this to connect it to the development. This would accommodate multi-use paths that would include bicyclists and pedestrians, a much more robust landscape opportunity, and then parking for the commuter parking. So in the end, within this 33-acre site, we were able to accommodate 20 acres of development blocks and around 768,000 square feet of residential development with a new community park and a community facility at the heart of this development. So next slide. In the end, this we think is our greatest accomplishment, which is really fill up that 10-minute walking area. I did not show an improvement to Russell Court on the west side of the bus stops that will really make even the westerly area of Franklin Lane station area accessible to transit. I believe that's my last slide. Yes, thank you.
And there is a question in the audience. If you could throw that in the chat, we'll try to get to it at the end. Kyle.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Skala. I am the manager for locally NJDOT's local aid division office. I'm here to briefly speak about the different funding opportunities that we have to offer to municipalities and counties. If you've ever received a grant through our office in the past, you're very familiar with local aid and what we have to offer. If you aren't, the next few slides will provide some information on some of the grants that are available that can help you improve access to transit. Now, local aid provides over $500 million in grants each year to municipalities and counties. Yes, I know if you add it all up right now, it does not equal 500 million, but these are programs that are relevant for improving access to transit, and they reflect what we were able to fund in fiscal year 2025 for these programs. Our state aid funded programs are construction only, are for construction only projects. We can reimburse up to 5% in design costs, but legislatively we cannot fund planning or design phases independently. For our three smaller programs, the Transit Village, the Bikeway, and the Safe Transit, in recent years we have been able to provide additional funds to these programs, but we have seen a drop off in application submissions. So if there's anything you take away from the funding portion of this forum is please know that there are a lot of funds available. And the only way that these funds are not accessible is if you do not apply. Slide, please. All right, to touch on these programs a little bit more. Our municipal aid program is our bigger one. $150 million total is available. 140 of it is competitive, with $10 million being made available to our urban aid recipients. Out of the 8 categories, the bottom 4, pedestrian safety, mobility, bikeway, and quality of life, are more directly suited for improving transit access than others. However, is always encouraged when submitting an application to make it a complete project and propose improvements that will impact all users and all modes of transportation. This program is our largest and has the most flexibility in terms of eligibility. Next. Safe Streets to Transit. This is our program that focuses solely on pedestrian safety. There are eligibility requirements, like being within a mile radius of a transit stop. I want to highlight that we have 1 million programmed every year for this program, similar to Transit Village and Bikeways. But as I mentioned earlier, over the past 5 years, additional funds have been made available through the general budget. It's great news that we've been able to fund more projects. Last year, we were able to fund 11.7 million in projects. Unfortunately, when we get these additional funds, they are made available at the end of our solicitation for this program. So what we try to do is really promote that this could happen. Additional funds can be made available to these programs, and really push municipalities and counties to apply for this. But we are seeing less applications being submitted. Next. Bikeways, like similar to SST, only 1 million program, but we're able to fund 6.1 million. Last year, this program is very specific that it funds bike projects, and they must be physically separated from motorized traffic, whether it's through an open space or barrier or by a barrier. So we are not funding just striping projects with these. These are actually bike paths or lanes that are physically separated from the motorized traffic. Next, please. Transit Village is a program specific to municipalities that are committed to a transit-oriented development, and they get a Transit Village designation. Currently, there's only 36 municipalities that have this designation, so they are the only 36 municipalities that are eligible for the program amount, which is $1 million. But this also falls into where additional funds are available. And because we receive probably only about a third of the eligible applicants are really ever submit an application, we only were able to fund $2.6 million last year with those additional funds. So this is, if you are a Transit Village and you have that designation, we strongly encourage you to apply for this program. Next. We have a couple federally funded programs. Safe Routes to School. I know this is for improving access to transit, but a lot of times we see a lot of overlaps between the pedestrian and bicycle routes, and this particular program is specific to helping kids ages grades K through 12 to walk or bike to school. There is more flexibility in the different phases for this project. So it's not just construction. We can do some planning and design if your construction application is accepted. And our last one, our Transportation Alternatives Set Aside program, is federally funds for community-based, non-traditional surface transportation projects. There's 7 specific categories eligible in this program, with most applicants submitting an application to improve multimodal facilities for design and construction of trail facilities for pedestrians, bicyclists, and other non-motorized forms of transportation. I see a bunch of comments coming in. I'm about to address those. And this is our contact information for a resource center. I strongly encourage you to visit it. There's a lot more information regarding all our programs, the contact for our hotline, so you talk to somebody or reach us through email, and we'll respond to any questions that you have.
Kyle, so I think there was a question about the drop off. And any thoughts on why and whether there's been kind of some more targeted outreach or surveys to find out why?
We do not know why there's been drop off,
Okay.
especially for those 3 programs. We try to get out and promote all these in different forums throughout the year. Our programs are always solicited at the end of April with a deadline of July 1st to make it easier for people to know on a yearly cycle that this is the time we'll be accepting applications. But not sure why we're receiving them. Maybe because we're funding more with additional funds. But you know, we do want to see these some strong applications being sent in. You know,
Yeah. I wonder if it's also a competition with Safe Streets. Like that there's a lot of funding coming through that. Yes, there's a question whether the funding can help complete streets planning. I think you'd want to go through the MPO for that. Your
Correct,
funds are
yeah.
more implementation.
These are for construction phases only. Our federal programs, you have to submit an application for a construction project. However, we will be able to fund some planning for that and the design.
Right. But for complete streets planning in general, you would go to the MPO, or you could go directly to the Federal Highway Administration, Safe Streets for All funding. Sid, you had a question?
Yes. Hi, this is Sid. I wanted to ask about how the Transit Village Initiative interacts with the community or the Department of Community Affairs and whatever grants that they may have for planning initiatives, and also how it interacts with affordable housing initiatives. I know that COA isn't a thing anymore, but I'm talking about that sort of the new requirements for affordable housing. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, Sid. I don't think right now, I'm just trying to think back. There used to be a pot of planning funds that came out of the Office of, well, it was called Smart Growth back then. Now, what is it called? The Office of, what is it called? Why am I blanking on what it's called now?
Planning advocacy.
Planning advocacy, that's it. But I don't think they have a pot of money anymore. EDA has some planning money, but I don't think there's as much of a connection between Transit Village and the there's just not as much planning funds, period, for more general planning.